Microphone check 1 2 1 2. That's right. It's your boy DJ Mad Scientist, and yeah, I'm here for another Wednesday. What? Yes, I told you I was. I told you I was gonna be here for another Wednesday. Being here on a Wednesday is not gonna be the problem. It's being here on a Wednesday on time. That's gonna be the problem. But we'll work that out. We'll work that out. I'm still getting my head wrapped around how I want to present this. I'm changing up my um my radio show in order to accommodate this aspect of what I provide. And I'll be totally honest. The reason why I'm doing that is because when I talk to you directly here, I own this. I own everything that I say. And when I mean I own it, I don't mean like yes, I own it, intellectual property, but more importantly, I own what I'm saying. So when I'm on the radio station, Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., Power 975 LA on the iGlobal Radio app. When I'm on there, I don't own the station. So I have to always be very careful about what I say, how I say it, because I don't own the station, and I could say something that could be detrimental not only to the station, but that could be detrimental to the other DJs and radio hosts that are on there. Now, just because I believe something to be true, I believe something to be righteous, uh, doesn't mean that how I feel about certain things is consistent with someone else. And when I'm on the radio station, that is a shared space. My YouTube channel is not a shared space. It's not, um, there's no one else that owns it. I literally control it, and I don't have to worry about shared values or shared perspectives. So the fact that I'm still going to be doing hot topics on the radio, right? But when I do the hot topics on the radio, I pretty much just read the story. I get the stories from, TMZ, like everybody else, Shade Room, or other reputable places, NBC News, AP, NPR, different places that it's reputable. I give them credit. I credit their writing, but it's reputable. Okay. And that kind of protects the station, which again is a shared space. Okay. You know, not just mad scientists and how I feel about things. Whereas with this YouTube, I own this. And when I say I own it, meaning whatever I say here, it's me. I, I may still read stories and I'll still give, the writer credit, but there's no one else saying, I feel kind of differently with that. I don't have to bring on a different perspective on here unless I decide I want to. Okay. So I'm still wrapping my head around this and how I'm going to present this information. At the same time, you know, I'm, my channel is growing and I'm looking at the analytics and I'm trying to find out, how people are responding to the content that I put out. So for example, I'm a DJ. I'm a working DJ. Um, I, am a um, resident DJ at Agave Ultra Lounge in downtown Long Beach here in California. I have a Taco Tuesday. I'm there on Thursdays, but it's not really my day. I'm just there, just kind of donating my time because we need a DJ there, and I'm the only one that can just donate his time. Okay, so I go there on Thursdays. But I also go there Friday nights for the Friday night for the Hype Friday, and I also go there for Saturday brunch. And what I'm finding and I'm an open format DJ. What that means for those who are not DJs, that means I can do different kind of music. I can obviously do hip hop, different generations of hip hop, old school, which would be like 90s. I can go for hip hop. I can go back to the mid 90s all the way to current. For R&B, I can go back to the 70s all the way to current. For reggaeton, I can go from the 90s all the way to current. Even for like the various forms of Latin, which is merengue, punta, um, salsa, I can go pretty much the 70s, mostly the 90s, come forward. Okay. And I'm learning house. Okay. Pretty much the house that I know now is all current stuff. I don't really go back. I mean, when I say I can't, meaning yes, I can download the music, but I'm still learning house. I don't really understand the culture yet. Whenever you're talking about any kind of music, you have to not just know the music, you have to know the culture. And so I don't know house culture. It wasn't something that I was a part of growing up. And so if somebody said play house music, there are certain songs that kind of bled into hip hop, but that's all newer stuff. I can't go past the 2000s, 90s house, 80s house. No, definitely not. Okay. So I'm in what's considered open format DJ. Okay. I can do funk, do R&B, I dance hall. I can go back to the 90s, reggae. I know the difference between reggae and dance hall. Okay. I can even do a little soca. Okay. And do pretty much a lot of different styles of DJing. So I'm an open format DJ. What I'm finding on my YouTube channel, to get back to the point, and then I'm gonna give you guys the my introduction. What I'm finding is that people like certain aspects of what I do. They like certain aspects of my DJing. They like certain aspects of my discussion. Like on my channel, I have music marketing as opposed to hot takes. People like my hot takes more than they like my music marketing. Because with my hot takes, it's just, ratchetness, whereas with my music marketing, it's a lecture. And they don't want to be lectured. Uh with with um with music, when I DJ, that's what they really, really like is my DJing. Um According to what I see on my analytics, they like my 90s, 2000s mix. And even when I'm live, like I was there last night, people were like, "Oh my God, and I did, I had 3 birthdays at my Taco Tuesday. They wanted to hear, kind of like the 2000s, 90s, 2000s, and then go ratchet later on. Um, they like the 90s, 2000. I can do the ratchet stuff now, but they were like, man, your 90s, 2000 mix, perfect. Okay. So that's why right now I'm still going through a process of learning not just who I am, but knowing what people want to hear from me. Because ultimately, as an entertainer, that's what you're going to learn is what people want to hear. And then when you find that, hopefully you can find more than one, one aspect that they like about you. When you find that, then you just double down on that. That's what it comes down to, having success in life on anything. You figure out what you're good at, you figure out what the customer wants from you, and then you just double down on it. And hopefully they want more than just one thing from you because you don't want to be like just constantly on this one thing. That would be like Alfonso Rivera, where they only liked him being Carlton. You kind of want to be more like Tom Cruise, where he can play different characters right, in different movies, and it's okay. But at the same time, Tom Cruise is pretty much an action figure. He's an action hero. He's found his one thing. Nobody wants to hear Tom Cruise be emotional. They want to see Tom Cruise shooting, wilding out, stunts, saving everyone. And he's made a lot of money doing that. Okay. And I don't know how he figured it out or when he figured it out, but he figured it out and he just doubled down on it. So that's what I'm going through right now is trying to figure out what is it that people like. Hopefully, I'm not an Alfonso Rivera where they only like for me to do one kind of thing, that they allow me to do different things. But um, I gotta figure it out and find it out. And that's what I'm going through. I would like to do hot takes and discussions because that's part of who I am as a person. You know, I have opinions and I feel like my opinions are educated and I want to talk about them. I listen to the Joe Budden podcast a lot and I be talking to, I listen to it on the headphones and I be talking to the podcast, right? In my head, because I don't always agree with them, but I like hearing it. I like hearing their perspective. I like in my brain putting my perspective in, and I hope that you guys as listeners find it entertaining, you know, instructive, not so much, but at least entertaining, right? That way you guys will be waiting and be like, Mad Scientist, you got to be here on time. We've been waiting for this since 5:30, and here you are at 6:20 coming on. Okay. So that's what I'm hoping. That's what my hope is. And so I got to figure it all out. But when I do, I'm going to double down on it and continue to do it. I mean, that's the plan. Okay. That is the plan of action. All right, let me go ahead and get into this introduction. It's your boy DJ Mad Scientist on the Midday Madness Show, Hot Topics Edition, where we discuss the hottest hip hop music and cultural topics. We go live right here, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch every Wednesday, 6 p.m. until 7 p.m. Or whenever I start and I do an hour. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. And if you want a personal notification, and I know you do, go ahead and hit that notification button too. All right, y'all. Um, let's go ahead and before I get into the first thing, I want to go ahead and get into the first sponsor. Okay. Um, yes, I sponsor the show. Okay. For those who are like so smart. All right. We got the DJ Mad Scientist Friday Night Hype every Friday night at Agave Ultra Lounge in downtown Long Beach. From 10 p.m. until 2 a.m., the hottest hip hop, R&B, reggaeton, and party vibes. That's every Friday night at Agave Ultra Lounge in downtown Long Beach. Get in free before 11 on the guest list at www.agaveultralounge.com. That's www.agaveultralounge.com. Or you know what? You can just hit me up on my IG anytime. That's at sign the mad science. That's at sign the mad science. That's DAMADD science. Okay. That's the mad scientist. Friday night hype every Friday night at Agave Ultra Lounge in downtown Long Beach. The address is 200 Pine Avenue in the city of Long Beach. That's downtown Long Beach. All right. Um, Today I'm going to do something a little different. I've got two big topics that we're going to talk about, and and we got IG topics. I'm gonna just put that out front. Two big topics. Okay, you see the first one right there on your screen. We're going to be talking about the Drake lawsuit. Okay. Um, and what I'm going to do first and foremost is I'm going to read you the main story that I got from the TMZ website. And then we'll go into, my thoughts on it. Um, Drake firmly believes that Universal Music Group boss Lucian Grange may have signed off on Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us with the knowledge the pedophile lyrics or P-file lyrics would damage his brand. And Drake wants the judge to force UMG to hand over any documents that would prove his hunch. That's kind of crazy to me that he has this hunch, but that's the nature of the law. Okay. According to docs obtained by TMZ Hip Hop, Drake and his legal team filed a letter motion asking the court to compel UMG to produce any evidence related to Lucian Grange's role in approving the label's release of the mega hit. Since its release, Not Like Us has won several Grammys, secured sales and stream milestones, and even got the spotlight at the Super Bowl halftime show, where Kendrick performed this year. Grange is dubbed as the most powerful person in the music industry, and Drake apparently believed Grange may have docs that would help Drake prove his case. Now, that was the article provided by TMZ. And so, if you want to read the article with your own eyes, you might think, I don't, mad scientist, did you leave something out? All right, let's go to TMZ website, check it out. You can read it for yourself. That way, you got it. Now, here's I'm gonna go at this a little different than everybody else because right now, if you're online right now, mostly everyone is kind of still on looking at this from their angle, from their side. If you were a Kendrick fan, or maybe you just felt like Kendrick won. Okay, maybe you feel like Kendrick. I'm not a Kendrick fan, but I'm a hip hop fan, and I think Kendrick won. Right? Then the lawsuit pretty much is just giving you the opportunity to double down on your feelings that Kendrick won. Okay, that's what I'm seeing. And on the other side, with the people who were either fans of Drake or felt like Drake won. I'm not going to say that everybody who thinks that Drake won is a Drake fan. Maybe you're just a fan of hip hop and you're like, I think that Drake won. And you know what? That's fair to say. My job is not to um, tell you who won. I have my thoughts on who won, and I don't mind saying I think Kendrick won. Now, I'll also say that yes, I am a fan of Kendrick. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you, oh no, I was neutral in the matter. No, I was not neutral at all. I told people from day one, I've made a lot of money with Drake. I still make a lot of money with Drake. Okay, I play Drake on the radio. I play Drake in when I'm live DJing. I make a lot of money because Drake exists. Drake is excellent at what he does, no doubt. But emotionally, be- because I'm from LA, specifically from Compton, I grew up in Compton. I'm just more emotionally tied to Kendrick. Do I think that he's the greatest hip hop? That would be a good question to ask. If I think he's the greatest hip hop MC, that's a good question to ask. But I generally tell people when you ask me that question, I'm also educated in music. I study hip hop. I study hip hop history. I study music history. I have a degree in Africana studies. So I study Black culture, African culture. And so my answer is going to be more than just yes or no. I'm going to break it down. I do think there's a difference between a lyricist, MC, a rapper. You can be an excellent rapper and a horrible lyricist. Okay. You could be a really great lyricist, write really great lyrics, and cannot rap it. Okay. There's a lot of people who are considered great, but they are horrible rappers, which is the physical nature of saying the words on beat. That's what I feel like a rapper is. You're able to say, you know, whatever, whether the words rhyme or not, but you're able to say a collection of words on beat, okay, in a rhythm. And a lot of people can't do that, but they're really great lyricists. They can write lyrics out really, really well. And then there's a lot of people who are really great rappers, but they're not the greatest lyricists. I'll say Snoop is in that category because he's already admitted. He's like, I don't write all my raps. I get ideas from other people and I think, oh, it's a great idea. I'll go ahead and rap on it. I'll go ahead and rap their lyrics. But Snoop is one of the greatest lyricists, probably top 5 lyricists. Okay. Not lyricists, rappers. I'm sorry. Snoop is probably top 5 rappers. Once you give him the rhythm, he's gonna say it on rhythm, on beat, and you can give him multiple kinds. You can have a multi-layer rhyme scheme or multi-layer rhythm pattern, I should say, with Snoop, and he could within one verse, and he could switch over to different rhyme patterns very easily. I think he's top 5. But if you're talking about lyricists, I mean, I don't know if I would put him in my top 100 because he doesn't write all of his lyrics, and his lyrics, the ones he does write, tend to be just playful, sound good, but they're not the deepest. He's not the deepest lyricist. Okay. And I think he knows that. I don't think I'm saying anything controversial. Now, let's get back to the point. So, with Kendrick, emotionally, I'm a Kendrick fan. But in terms of what I specifically do, which is I DJ parties, I don't make a lot of money with Kendrick. Okay. I think there's 4 songs that, let me think, it might be 5. You're going to play Mad City. If you're a DJ and you're not playing Mad City, then you're crazy. Humble, you're going to be playing Humble. You're going to be playing TV Off. And then you're probably going to play Squabble Up. Now, there are some songs Kendrick is on, Fancy, but no one plays that song till the Kendrick part. It's at the end. I think he's got like the 3rd verse. He's not on the 1st verse, 2nd verse. You don't wait for, oh, you got to play the Kendrick part on Fancy. So you got about 4, maybe 5 if you play Not Like Us songs that are Kendrick. Whereas Drake, you could do a whole club. You could do a whole hour of Drake, but definitely you wouldn't do Drake back to back. But if you had a 4-hour club set, you're going to have Drake in every aspect of that set. Every aspect from the beginning to the end. And so I've been able to make a lot of money with Drake music. That being said, when it came to the battle, yeah, I was on Kendrick's side. And I don't apologize for that because at that point in time, it's not about who can make people dance. It was going to be strictly lyrics. And I just felt like Kendrick was going to be the better lyricist. Now, that's not to say that Drake does not have lyrics. He does. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to miss a lot of collabs that I used to enjoy all the time. I'm gonna miss the Rick Ross Drake collab. I'm gonna miss that. I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, man, I would love to hear another Rick Ross and Drake, but it's probably never gonna happen. Okay. I would love to hear another Drake and Future. That could possibly happen. Drake really hasn't said anything negative about Future, but I don't know if that's gonna happen. More than likely, we'll probably hear a Drake's 21 Savage. Um, Especially if 21 Savage gets deported to London. But I think we'll hear that. I don't know if we're gonna hear a Drake and French Montana. We probably won't hear that because we won't hear Drake and Rick Ross. So we probably won't hear Drake and French Montana. I don't want to hear a Drake and Young Money unless it's just Drake and Nicki. Okay, Drake and Nicki, but if it's got to be Lil Wayne, please Drake write Lil Wayne's verse. Okay. And then can y'all make him practice cuz Lil Wayne is way out of practice. Okay? And please let 40 Drake's 40, let him produce it so that even if Lil Wayne is off key and off beat, 40 can go ahead and fix it. But I don't know if we're gonna see a Young Money Drake collab. I miss all those collabs. I'll be honest, as a fan, not just as making money, but as a fan. Um, I play We Like Girls. We play that song all the time. I'm learning you cannot sing on these. So I would like to sing the whole song, but can't. I learned that like on the monetization part because I'm monetized. My content is monetized now. So, you know, but you get the point. There's a lot of Drake collabs I actually gonna miss. Okay. So I'm not a Drake hater, but when it came down to this, I just felt like, it's gonna be close, but Kendrick was gonna win. Now, here was the only thing that I was nervous about is that I said probably Kendrick is going to get so lyrical miracle and then Drake is going to drop a banger and it's going to be over. And I thought that we'd be like arguing, oh, well, yeah, I know Drake won, but Kendrick is so lyrical miracle. I thought that would be the debate. I thought we'd be talking about um how lyrical and you got to get the double entendres, the triple entendres for Kendrick, but Drake actually won. And I kind of felt like the Not Like Us it would be Drake. I felt like that, even as a Kendrick fan. But it didn't happen like that. And I think for a lot of people, that was the reason why it was such a big moment. I remember being in the gym when Not Like Us dropped, and I'm sitting there doing squats. And I remember I had to stop because I couldn't breathe. I remember that moment. I'll never forget it. But I couldn't breathe. And I was just so caught up into the anxiety of what was going to happen because you got to remember back then, everything was dropping just at a fanatic pace. And then not only did it drop, but you had to like go there and read everything and then try to translate everything, and everybody's heading over to Genius and trying to like, what did I miss? And and then you got to backtrack and go 2 albums back. You got to go back to Damn and kind of like as a reference material, and then you got to break out your thesaurus. And it was like, and I don't mind doing it because I'm an educated person, but I was so tired emotionally. And so by time Not Like Us dropped, and it was just a banger. And like I don't know, I grew up in Compton, so I don't know about everywhere else, but I kind of feel like you guys can understand this. In my middle school and my high school years, me and my group of friends, we spent every day just bagging on each other. That's what we called it. We called it bagging on each other all day. We would invent, I would say my group was probably the funniest and most entertaining group of baggers. It didn't matter if we were together, we were bagging on each other. If we were together and we went out into the world, and somebody tried to attack one of us, they couldn't handle it. And when I say attack, I don't mean like physically. I'm talking about just jokes. They couldn't handle us. We were that good. And so when I heard not like us, I thought about my middle school, high school friends who it was just a bag section. That's all it was. It was bagging. And I feel like because, you know, Kendrick came from the same area, we went to the same high school, he probably had those bagging sessions too. And I learned the value of there's a difference between being insulting and bagging on somebody. You could insult somebody and it's like, oh man. But if you learn how to bag on somebody, it don't have to be true. But if it's funny and entertaining, that goes forever. So all in my crew, and I'm not gonna go into the details, but all of us had characters. I had a character that, when it was my turn to get bagged on, there was a character that was portrayed on me. It wasn't true, but it was entertaining. And all of us had a character that we portrayed on, my different friends when we were bagging on each other. And it wasn't necessarily true, but it was funny and it was entertaining. So I felt like Kendrick kind of went back to those days. Now, I've never talked to Kendrick about it, but my guess would be if I were to talk to him, I would say, man, you were just bagging on Drake, huh? And I feel like he just, yeah, like I went back to my roots, like Centennial days, where it's like you just start bagging on people and it's not true, but it sounds funny, it's entertaining. Okay. And so, and I don't think that, you know, not to say that I'm not one of those people that says Drake is not black. Clearly, Drake is black. Okay. But again, I'm a musical historian. So at some point in time, not now, but I'm going to talk about just the historical nature of who Drake is, right? Because I think we kind of forget who his father and his uncle are and the lineage. His uncle is pretty much a funk pioneer. And I don't care that his mom and his dad didn't live together. And I know his mom, look, I didn't, my son and his mother were not together. My son did not grow up in my household every day. Um, but that does not mean that I did not have an influence on him. Yeah, I picked him up on the weekends, picked him up for holidays. I definitely had an influence on my son. Okay. Now it was his mom that took care of him every day. So I think Drake is pretty much a product of that. It was his mom that took care of him every day. And his mom is Jewish and she's going to bring him up the way that she knows. But that doesn't mean that, Drake is not going to go down south and be around his dad's people. And when you're a kid, you're not thinking like, oh, I'm going to pick a side. No, you're not. You're just going to, oh, that's my dad. And I'm pretty sure that Drake understood who his dad was and who his uncle was. Okay. But I digress. That's another day, another topic for another day. Okay. My point is this I want to get to is we get the not like us and we go through that whole little victory lap, which is, and if you're an American citizen, if you're in America, you understand the concept of victory lap. You're going to do the victory lap because you won. And clearly, hip hop culture said Kendrick won. Clearly, it said that. Even the people who did not want, like I remember watching DJ Academics. I was watching him like everybody else. We go to DJ, he's like the CNN of hip hop. Okay. I was there watching him. And as much as they are Drake camp, in the moment, they acknowledge the win for Kendrick. They acknowledged the win for Kendrick. Okay. And I remember hearing academics saying, man, he's been so much a part of my life. That can't just be over, and I understand that. I understand that. Like, I was a little mad at when Drake did the crush the van. My dad had a van like that. You can't just crush the van. No, my dad had a van. It was not the same color, but it was white. And if you grew up in Compton, you either got a dad or an uncle that has a van, like that's on that Mad City, Good Kid, Mad City album cover. You see that van everywhere in Compton. Some variation of that van. And when Drake crushed the van in the junkyard, man, that hurt my heart. So I understand DJ academics. There are certain things that touch us culturally, and when those things are destroyed, we don't just let it go. And I think that's a very normal human um, response. Okay. That said, okay, Drake lost. Kendrick went on a victory tour, and like everybody else would have, if Drake had won, he would have toured off of it. You're not going to drop this single and not tour off of it. Okay. And just the nature of today's crowd, they're going to sing every bar, lyric per lyric, bar for bar, and they're going to mosh pish off of it. It's a victory lap. And I was very proud of the fact that it was a hip hop song that made this much of a culture, because you got to remember 2023, 2022, everybody was dancing on the grave of hip hop. You got streamers out there right now, they're like, hip hop is dead. It's not even interesting. It's boring. So to me, to see hip hop be able to massively take over the American culture, and not only the American culture, but take over the world's culture. It was a hip hop song that did that. At the end of the day, I was very proud of that because I am culturally tied to hip hop. I love hip hop. Yes, I study all forms of music, but hip hop is my music. That was the music I chose. My dad listened to jazz. I didn't choose jazz. My mom listened to gospel. I didn't choose gospel. I chose hip hop, not R&B, not house, not any of those other forms of music. I chose hip hop. So to see hip hop win in that kind of way in 2024, take over the zeitgeist, take over the mindset, the culture, the mind, to inspire so many people around the world to say, not like us, I love to see it. Here's the problem. Drake decided, I'm going to sue the record label. Now, I'm going to tell you, none of us in hip hop want to be in a position where we want to defend a record label. But it was in our mind's eye, it was in the back of our mind that, man, this ain't about the record label. This is not about the record label. Drake is not suing the record label. Drake is mad that he lost a rap battle and can't let it go. Now, there were certain people like myself who said, I just wish that Drake would have said, all right, good battle, and moved on. Like, imagine how big Nokia would have been. And it's pretty big, but I think Nokia would have been way bigger if he had just said, all right, I lost. Good show. Let me drop this. And then he drop it. And yes, the song is doing well. I play the song and it does well. It did better than I thought it was going to do out here in the West Coast. I knew it would do well in Canada. I knew it would do well in some parts of the United States. I didn't realize it would do so well in California. It is doing well in California. Don't let anybody tell you it's not. It is. I play it every week. And I said week, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Okay. And nobody's tired of it yet. So I think it's going to go for a while. I think that song has got legs until probably next spring. Okay. And then and then it's probably gonna keep going because they're gonna make a house version of it, and that's gonna take it to over next summer, to the end of next summer. Okay. Um, but back to the point, Drake files his lawsuit, and we kind of suspect in hip hop, man, this ain't about Universal and trying to get free from the record label, and this is about you lost a rap battle. And this week, that thought was confirmed because now we're starting to see what Drake's lawyer or his representation is asking for in discovery. For those who don't know, and if you're looking at this, you probably do know what's going on. Drake's filed a lawsuit, and and the judge is considering dismissing the case, which is normal. You know, one side says, "Oh, dismiss it," but the judge says, "You know what? You guys still go through the process. I'll let you know if I'm gonna dismiss it on its merit." Okay, and on its merit means if Drake even has a case according to the law, I got to decide that. I got to look at everything. Okay, but you guys still go through the motions, and the first motion that you go through is discovery. Drake's lawyers are asking for certain information, and Universal's music group, their lawyer can ask for certain information, and they exchange information so that everybody understands what are the facts as it relates to this case. Well, the facts that Drake's lawyers are asking for have nothing to do with Universal. They're asking for birth certificates for Kendrick's children. What does that got to do with Universal Music Group? They're trying to confirm whether or not Dave Free is the father of Kendrick's kids. They're all Drake's representations also asking for criminal records for, and not even just criminal records, criminal allegations of abuse by Kendrick. Why? Because that is what pretty much what Drake said. Drake said, "Oh, he beats his we call her his wife, but they're not technically married. He beats Whitney, and also those are not your kids. Those kids belong to Dave Free." Okay, so he wants to prove that Kendrick beats his woman, and those kids are not yours, and that has nothing to do with Universal Music Group. Lucian Grange probably doesn't know or doesn't even care whether or not those are Kendrick's kids or not. He probably would want to know if he's beating his woman, but he probably doesn't care if those are his kids or not, business wise. But along with now, I was not going to break down because I'm not a lawyer. I was not going to break down the whole discovery, the list. You can go to there's a YouTuber, I can't think of his name right now, but he broke down everything. I want to call him Brand Man. No, not Brand Man. It was a different YouTuber. But you can go on YouTube and just Drake lawsuit. And there's one guy, he's going through, I think it's like 74 requests. He breaks it down. I'm not doing that because I'm not a lawyer. And if you really want to know that stuff, just download it off the internet and you can read it for yourself because I can't add anything to any of that stuff because I'm not a lawyer. But I am a human being with a brain, an educated brain. And I just think that we now have confirmation that Drake is definitely taking it personal that he lost a rap battle. And unfortunately, this is going to affect the business of hip hop. It won't affect the culture of hip hop. Some people are like, "Oh, he's killing hip hop." No, it won't affect the culture of hip hop, but will definitely affect the business of hip hop. Meaning that you could still make hip hop songs, but um, can you like call out another rapper and have faith that that rapper may not sue you? No, you don't have that faith anymore. Um, if you're signed to a major record label, can you even do rap battles? Probably not. I mean, we see that even in this same filing, we see that Pusha T was censored. Pusha T talked about it, and in this latest filing, it was confirmed that Drake did censor Pusha T. Now you engage in a rap battle, but you're going to go back to the record label and say, no, don't let him put that out. Don't let him put that rap, censor his rap battle. But I can say whatever I want. So I think it will change the business of hip hop, this lawsuit, but I don't think it'll change the culture. Primarily because um the thing about black people, ever since we've been over here on this in America, is that we're very good at double entendres. We're very good at making songs that hide our intentions. All right, let me get into our next sponsor. The Mad Scientist Saturday brunch and day party at the world famous Agave Kitchen and Tequila Bar in downtown Long Beach. That's every Saturday from 12 p.m. until 5 p.m. Celebrate your birthday party, girls do brunch, family reunion, foodies brunch, or whatever you want to call it. Go to Eventbrite or hit me up on my IG at sign the Mad Science. That's at sign the Mad Science. That's DAMADD Science. That's the Mad Scientist Saturday brunch and day party at Agave Kitchen and Tequila Bar, located at 200 Pine Avenue in the beautiful city of Long Beach. All right, last topic. We're not going to do, I thought we were going to do Twitter topics, but we're running low on time. I talked about this Drake thing. This Ice Cube thing is, you know, I'm from the West Coast, and out here in the West Coast, the predominant Latin culture, and I don't really call it Latin, but I'm using this word Latin or Latino or Latina just because this goes out to a lot of people around the planet, and most people, they look at Mexicans and they say Latinos. But if you're from California, and Mexicans are everywhere, but the ones in California typically will call themselves Mexicans. Okay, even if they're born here, I'm still Mexican. They're born in Mexico, I'm Mexican. Born over here, but my parents were from Mexico, I'm Mexican. They rarely like say the Latino or Latina thing, but we all understand it's kind of like a blanket that's put on a lot of people from that hemisphere of the world. All right, so when you're from California, I, now I'm going to admit something. I probably have a relationship that is with Mexican culture and with immigrants that is probably ideal, meaning I have a very positive relationship with Mexican people, and I have a very positive relationship with people from other countries, Africans, Caribbean. I could probably go into a deep dive as to why, but we're not going to do that today. But I have a very positive. Now, I do realize that that's not everybody. It's not everybody to have a positive relationship with these different cultures. Okay. And, you know, because I have a idealistic relationship, I realize that um my perspective on things may not be as popular as I would like it to be. Okay. I realize that. What do I mean by that? I'm not going to go into the details because I feel like I would like to have a behind the scenes conversation with a lot of people, a very frank one. And I don't want to have it on this air. Meaning, I feel like a lot of times people give their feelings, but they don't give their facts. Okay. They give their feelings, but not their facts. And I think that a lot of times when you give your feelings and you try to portray them as facts, you lose credibility. So I don't want to lose credibility by giving my feelings and trying to pass them off as facts. Um, but I will admit that my relationship with a lot of different people from around the world is ideal. I've only had like one negative experience with somebody from Africa, and but I have a ton of African friends that I have very positive, really loving relationships with. Okay. I have a lot of great, amazing relationship with Mexican people. Okay. What does that mean? Why am I even bringing this up? What's it got to do with Ice Cube? So Ice Cube is African American, and I don't know exactly how old he is, but he's up there. Okay. And I don't have time to go look him up, but he's over 40. And I know as African American, I've talked to a lot of different African American, especially African American men who don't have the ideal, the idealistic relationship with different cultures that I have. They don't share, my perspective in that way, for different reasons. Okay. Out here in California, we have people who, and I'm not putting Ice Cube in this, but I'm just giving an example. Um, if you grew up and you joined a gang, I know, like I'm not stupid, that black gangs and Mexican gangs don't always get along when they're in high school. Now, the crazy thing is they get along, once they get over 30, they love each other. But in high school, they go at each other, they fight. But it's the same thing with black gangs and black gangs, same thing with Mexican versus Mexican gangs. Kids fight in high school, and then it reaches over into their 20s. And by the time they get to be 30, they chill out. They're like, man, I don't feel like going through that no more. You know what? Actually, that person's kind of cool. I know. He was always cool. Okay. So um I understand that. And then I've had conversations with um a lot of black men talking about the jobs that people compete for, especially in construction. Okay. And I'm not saying I agree with them. I'm just saying I have those discussions. And most of the time, I say to them, you know, my point of view is you need to, your anger is misdirected. You're mad because someone is taking less money, but you're not mad at the person who owns the construction company, who is essentially saying, I'm going to hire someone who is not a citizen because I don't want to hire you. You're not mad at the person who owns the company. And that's where I'm always like, hey, you need to like direct your anger at the right people. You know, Mexican people that come over here and work, they're being exploited. And a lot of times I'm privy to information that informs me that says they get way more extorted, not only by the owners of the companies, but by citizens that look like them, right? They get exploited. And you don't want to be in that position. You're trying to fight to be in a position and you don't even understand the logistics of that position. And if you did understand it, you would not want to be in it. But I'm not going to go into that dynamic today. The reason why I'm talking about it is because, 4 years ago, Ice Cube had a platinum plan in which he said, I have a plan and I just want to talk to whatever politician. I don't care what politician. I have a plan and I think my plan will fix everything. Now, Ice Cube is really, really talented when it comes down to telling his story. He could tell a story. And when you're talking about telling the black story from LA, he's one of the best, if not the best. Okay. The Friday movie series, the barbershop, the Are We There Yet? He deserves everything, all the money and all the accolades that he's gotten from that. No doubt. But you know what Ice Cube is not good at? He's not good at politics. And the reason why I want to talk about it is because he recently went on a show, 92.3. It was a radio station out here in California, 92.3, on a cruise show, which to me is ironic. The cruise show on 92.3. And he gave an interview. And of course, he wants to sell all his things, big three, and I got music out and, touring and all that stuff. The problem I had with the interview is that he was shocked and surprised at the fact that out here in California, we have ICE agents, federal agents, ripping through our communities. Ripping through our communities. And the fact that he was surprised is shocking to me because he felt like it was going to be something different. In fact, in May, he was like, "Hey, Donald Trump is shaking things up, and we'll see how it goes." And I'm like, "What do you mean we'll see how it goes? We know how this will go." Because when he was elected the first time in 2016, he was putting kids in cages. When he was elected the first time, he was separating families. There are families literally across this nation that kids who don't know where their parents are, they're still trying to find, well, probably not now, but they were still trying to find and put kids with their families from the first time that Trump was in office. At what point in time do we saw where Border Patrol agents were on horses whipping Haitians. I remember seeing that, reminiscent of that period of enslavement where white men were sitting on horses whipping black bodies. Well, we got to see that in 2016. It wasn't a movie. It wasn't one of those, oh, I'm tired of those slave movies. No, that was real life. We witnessed in 2016 kids being Latino kids from Guatemala, from Central America, some from Mexico, being separated. And after seeing that, for some reason, Ice Cube thought, no, this time will be different. And what we're finding is that no, Trump is not different. He's better at doing what he's wanted to do in 2016. He's literally recruiting white people and some non-white people into being ICE agents, giving them a $50,000 bonus and saying, which is ironic, hey, look, we'll even take $60,000 off your student loan, which is crazy because when Biden tried to do that, the Republicans said, no, 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 no. It was these same people that are like, nah, if you got your student loan, you must pay for it. The taxpayer shouldn't have to pay for your student loan. But when Trump does it, we'll take 60,000. And a lot of those people, their whole loan is 60,000. So basically, they just got their school paid for by the taxpayers. They get a $50,000 bonus. And in addition to that, now the ICE agency is larger than most militaries in other countries. They have a budget larger than most countries' militaries. That's what Trump has learned to do. And he has gotten so many people in place that we don't have a Congress to stop him, nor do we have courts that are willing to stop him. My problem with Ice Cube is that he needs to shut up because you're not good at this politics thing. You're probably excellent at movies. I think your son is an excellent actor. I think your son is a better actor than you are. But when it comes down to politics and understanding politicians and understanding the American history, you suck. And I felt like I needed to talk about it because it bothers me that the cruise show has this man coming on your air. The cruise show. Now, I'm not sure which ethnicity this cruise guy's. I don't want to assume that he's Mexican. Okay. But I'm thinking you're some kind of Latino. And to allow this man your platform without saying to him, hey, what was it about what was it about Trump that you thought he was going to be okay for the nation? Why would you think that he's shaking things up and let's see? What do you mean, let's see? We know how he's going to shake it up. And at the end of the day, especially for my African American brothers, you might have thought, oh, he's just going to stop at the Mexicans in California. Well, guess what? Now he's over there with the black people in Washington, D.C. There's no Mexicans in D.C. There might be a couple, but D.C. is a black city. And for those who are Puerto Rican, who say, oh, they're only going to go after the Mexicans, not the Puerto Ricans, not the Cubans, he wants to go to New York. That's Dominicans, that's Puerto Ricans, which I don't know how that could be a surprise because he's probably treated the Puerto Ricans worse than anybody. Okay. But he wants to go to Chicago. That's Puerto Ricans. That's Mexicans. That's black people. He wants to come back to LA. And not just come back, but he wants to send the military. Let me explain something to you about the military. I had this discussion with somebody because I know a lot of people in the military. My dad was in the military. So I know a lot of people who's in the military. Okay. And I was having this discussion with somebody who was an ex-Marine, retired. Shout out to him. But he was like, well, mad scientist, I mean, can it be that bad? And I said to him, I said, there's two things that you guys do. He said, what? I said, death and destruction. And when I said that to him, he started laughing because he was like, yeah, that is what we do, death and destruction. And then we bring in the army and they occupy and make sure everybody's okay. There is nothing about what the military does that is consistent with police action. In fact, they are allowed to kill. They are allowed to death and destroy because that is their mandate. You don't send the Marines to another country to be a peacekeeper. That's why you have ambassadors. They do the peacekeeping. They do the talking. They do the rationale. That's ambassadors. That's the State Department. Okay? When you send in Marines, when the American president is saying, I'm sending the Marines somewhere, their job is to death and destroy. That's it. And then after the Marines finish death and destroying, they send the Navy in and they lob a bunch of missiles. Then after they finish lobbing a bunch of missiles, they bring in the army to occupy and kill everything that is not consistent with allowing the occupation to happen. That's what we are sending to our American cities with large numbers of African American and Latino, wherever in Latin America you're coming from, whether it's Puerto Rico, whether it's Dominican, whether it's Mexico, whether it's Guatemala, Honduras, no matter where you come from, you're here in these major cities, and Trump is now sending death and destruction to these cities. And we have to rely on the fact that now there's reports out there that a lot of the National Guards that is a arm of the military. Usually the National Guard comes in, they do cleanup. Hey, we got some fires. We need you to fight. We need some bridges to be built. We need civilian. We need civilian help. They're not there to police. They don't understand police power. They cannot arrest because if they're there to like fight the fires and then they get a someone coming out there saying, "Hey, we're going to stop you from fighting these fires." They have guns to kill that person. They're not going to reason or rationale with that person. They're going to kill him. And this is the shakeup that Ice Cube is saying would be great for Los Angeles. It would be great for Chicago. It would be great for New York. This is his politics. And so I question whether this guy, when this guy says, "Hey, Ice Cube, come on over. Let's talk about your movie. Let's talk about your big three um, basketball league. What are we doing? What are we allowing around us? Who are we alleging ourselves to?" I mean, I guess how much is he paying you? How much is he paying you to be able to come on your airwaves and hawk his merchandise? Not even services, his goods. To sell his goods to the very people that he says, yeah, the military should come over and death and destroy you. But by the way, watch my big three before you go. That's crazy to me. And I think it needs to be said. I think he needs to understand that when you open your mouth and you say, I'm going to align myself with the white supremacists because I have this platinum plan. I have this thing that I wrote on a paper, and one party is telling me, bro, we already do this. Like everything you came up with in this platinum plan, we already do this. We have the Democrats didn't say no. The Democrats said, yeah, we're already doing this. They just are, whether a group of people called Republicans accept the fact that we're doing it, they can't control that. You know, we talk about Obamacare. Obamacare, he didn't create Obamacare. He took Mitt Romney, who was a Republican. He took the Republicans' idea and says, okay, let's actually implement this. Let's give people medical. The moment when the Republicans said, hey, we were creating this medical system, they were fine with it. The moment Obama said, yeah, let's implement it, now we're against it. Oh my God, no, it's the worst thing ever. It's socialized medicine. The Democrats don't control that. Just like the idea, hey, let's give people, let's, they have these student loans. Let's forgive some of these student loans. It was a horrible idea to the Republicans. Now that Trump is doing it, it's okay. Just be an ICE agent. You get your student loan forgiven. That's okay with the Republicans now. So the fact that the Democrats had this plan and people didn't want to do it because the Democrats thought of this plan doesn't mean that the Democrats were against the platinum plan. What the Democrats can't control is the fact that there are Republican politicians who say, no, I like that idea, but I don't want you to do it. So you then align yourself with Trump, and you took a lot of black men with you. I talk to them, and they tell me these really dumb ideas. They parrot these dumb ideas. We literally have an organization out there called Foundational Black Americans. FBA sounds like KKK to me. FBA sounds like KKK to me. And it's people like Ice Cube that stokes it. Yes, I'm coming hard at Ice Cube because, at the end of the day, he's very rich, very wealthy. And like he said on the cruise show, hey, I can't wait for this time to be over. It sounds like a very rich person who probably does not have to really deal with reality of life. He's never had to worry about bills being paid. He's never have to worry about his safety. He's never had to worry about roof over his head, how he's gonna sustain himself. He doesn't have to go out grocery shopping. He has people go out there for him. So he knows he has food. He'll never have to worry about being asked for his papers. What do you mean? I'm Ice Cube. That's probably what he would say. I'm Ice Cube. I don't have to show I'm Ice Cube. I don't need to explain that. That's what he sounds like. And I don't begrudge him that. I think we should all be in that position where we don't have to worry about being pulled over and whether or not we're going to survive this interaction with law enforcement. Or in the case of people who now live in LA, survive this interaction with a military who's trained to death and destroy. He never will have to worry about that. So yeah, he's going to have to take this because at the end of the day, there's a lot of people out here. Now, I know I'm going over my time. It's only supposed to be an hour. But there's a lot of people out here who their reality is I'm going to have to deal with not just the LA County Sheriff, not just LAPD, not just Long Beach Police. Now I got to deal with masked men who just decide I'm going to pick you up, take you in. And if you're a citizen, I'll let you go after 3 hours. I'll let you go after a couple days. But I'm going to throw you in this van first. We had ICE agents coming out here in a Penske moving van, picking people up, throwing them in vans. Ice Cube does not have to worry about that. And so, yes, I would like to tell Ice Cube, shut up. Just shut up. And I would like to tell people who feel like, oh, well, he's a legend because he made some songs and he's created some movies, so I need to give him my platform. What are you doing? What are you doing? Look at yourself. Look at what you're doing. Because at the end of the day, there's a lot of people, because you're trying to platform this man, who are going to have to deal with the repercussions, who are going to have to deal with the real life death and destruction of a military force here in Los Angeles. 92.3 is a Los Angeles-based radio station. Ice Cube should not be welcome because we're occupied by the Marines, the U.S. Marines, who, by the way, their mandate is death and destruction. That's what we're dealing with out here. And I think it's time that we wake up to some facts, wake up to some realities. Now, I just like DJing. But I think I would be irresponsible if I just sat here and say, hey, dance to this music. Come listen to my radio station. Come to my Saturday brunch. Knowing that you might try to come to my Saturday brunch and find yourself pulled over by the U.S. Marines or some unmasked ICE agent on your way to my event. So I felt like I needed to take today and to put some energy into both these subjects. But most importantly, I just wanted to let everybody know, listen, and I'm going to end with this. Be careful out there. But we're going to have to start using our superpowers. Right now, we're having a political civil war between the Republicans and the Democrats. They are in a civil war. And the only people who are going to be able to solve this civil war, in this civil war, are the voters. Because the politicians are they're going to do what they are supposed to do, which is political war. But we're the ones who are in control of it. So I'm not telling you who to vote for. I'm not telling you which side is better. I tell people all the time, vote for your interest. You know, where I live, it's a combination of Republican and Democrat. So I can't just say go down the line, I'm only voting one party, even if I wanted to, because it's a combination. And for the most part, where I live, both parties are doing what they're supposed to do. They're protecting the interests of the people who live where I live. So in some cases, I may be voting Republican because that person is doing a great job. In other cases, I'll vote for a Democrat because that person is doing a great job. So vote your interest. But the main thing that I tell people is you're going to have to vote because that is our only superpower. Because if we don't vote, then the only other thing that we have left is death and destruction. You know, a lot of people misquote Malcolm X when they're talking about the ballot of the bullet speech. They think he's calling for violence. If you don't give me the ballot, I will come. No, he's not. He's actually talking about in that speech, hey, listen, in America, we have a chance and an opportunity to do something that no one else on the planet can do. We can have a change. He called it a bloodless coup. But what he meant was we can change things here in America without using guns, without using military. We just got to vote. That speech was not a pro-violence speech. It was a pro-vote speech. And what he was saying to the Black community, let's figure out what we want, throw out the religion and all the other differences that we have. Let's come together as a group, know what we want, and then let's vote accordingly. So I would say, you know, everyone needs to come together with your specific group, you know, no matter what your group is, you know, no matter what your state is, but come together, vote your interest. I don't always agree with people in other states. You know, I went to Texas one time for business. The person I met there, very beautiful person, loved him. Was okay. But I don't agree with them. First of all, in Texas, they don't have vegetables. I like eating vegetables. Everything is meat. Vegetables is like a side thought. But if you ask me, are they good people? I said, yeah. I wouldn't want them to change and not be like, and start being like California, because then it wouldn't be Texas. And if I ever want to go and get some really great brisket, okay, some of the best beef you've ever tasted on the planet, I couldn't because they wouldn't be Texas anymore. But because I don't live in Texas, I live in California. I'm going to vote my interest. But the main thing is we got to vote, because the core of it, that person I met in Texas probably doesn't watch anything that I watch, and I don't watch anything that they watch. They probably are stuck on Fox, and I'm over here looking at Don Lemon. But at the end of the day, that person was a good person. And I don't think that that person wants anything bad happen to me. I don't think that they probably just feel like, why are you eating those vegetables? What's up with that salad? And I'm like, hey, you got to have some kind of vegetables going through your system. You can't just have beef all day, every day. Okay. And I think we can live with that, but we're going to have to participate in this system. But let's not be like Ice Cube and just let's at least educate ourselves. And right now, I do believe that we have an administration in there who is more concerned with power than people. And we need to start getting to the point where we center people first. It's got to be about people first, not power. And we're going to have to start thinking about that. All right, y'all. I'm going to let y'all go. I'll be back next week on a regular course. Hopefully, it's not going to be like a whole hour and 20 minutes like it is today. If you are interested in seeing me do music, I'm on the Midday Madness show every day, Monday through Friday on Power 975 LA, Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. on the iGlobal Radio app. Thank you so much for listening, and see you next week.